Okay, so again, we can start with a short breathing exercise, watching the breath mindfully. Then we can try to generate good intention, motivation by thinking, by us coming here together and listening. May it be cause and condition and inspire us to keep our vows more purely. And by keeping those vows more purely, may it be able to help to cultivate the Bodhisattva mind, maintain and improve and increase the Bodhisattva mind. And having cultivated the Bodhisattva mind, may we be able to engage in the practice of six perfections, the Bodhisattva practices, complete and perfect them. And through those practices, may we be able to achieve full enlightenment, so we can help to liberate all sentient beings from all their suffering, cause of suffering, to fully ultimate happiness of full enlightenment. And may we be benefit and help to sentient beings throughout on the path. And of course, after we achieve enlightenment. Okay. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and it will conduct Sugata, the Lord of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of God, human beings to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, and go for it. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the four destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, the Lord of the world, supreme God of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, go for it. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent, destroyer, the one gone beyond, the fourth destroyer, the completely perfect, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge, and it would conduct Sugata, Lord of the world, supreme God of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent, the glorious conqueror, the subdued from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offering, go for refuge. 사시베기 조심매도 Dari Ralin Si Ninde Gembade Sange Shintu Nide Owai Dogen Namada Shin Shukai Shoyu Dam Gururana Mandala Niyataya. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create to listen to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Shudan Soge Sonam La Chanju Badu Dane Kat Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Ge Dola Penche Sangye Duba Sangye Shudan Soge Sonam La Chanju Badu Dane Dagi Shoshe Gibe Sonam Dola Penche Sangye Duba. So we have been going through the 18 root vows of the Bodhisattvas, and I guess we finished up to 6. Are we on 7, or did we finish more than that? I think we are on 7, yeah.
We started 8. We actually started on 8, Gashula.
Okay. Oh, yeah, now I remember. So I guess we finished the 8.
Yeah, I think so.
Then the 9th is cultivating and holding wrong view, such as sectarism, deny the existence of 3 jewels, or deny of the existence of law of cause and effect. So, without any, proof, without any proof, evidence, having these wrong conceptions and denying there's no past and future life, there's no law of cause and effect, there's no 3 jewels, such are the wrong view, Of course, if we have real proof, evidence that there is no 3 jewels, there's no karma, there's no past and future life, then of course it's not a wrong view, because that is correct information, because that's the reality. But if we don't have the real proof, and just because we can't see it, therefore, denying it does not exist, then that becomes a wrong view, because there are so many things we don't know. There are so many things we are learning more and more. And there's more that we don't know than what we know. There's more in the universe that we don't know than what we know, And so therefore, that kind of view become a wrong view, and such view, wrong view, is a very, very, again, very strong negative thoughts, emotion in terms of destroying our virtues. They say, anger and the wrong view are the worst, more powerful negative emotions that could destroy our virtues that we have created in the past. So denying them and having that wrong view and having doubt about is a different, you can have a doubt. We can have a doubt, We can have a doubt whether there's whether there's a past life or future life, whether there is, karma or not. When you have doubt, you are not totally denying it. You are just not, completely sure whether it exists or it does not exist. and you are wondering about it. So that is not equal as the wrong view, where you totally deny and you totally believe that they do not exist. Okay, so those two are two different things, not having certainty about them, not being 100% sure whether it exists or not, and therefore having some doubt or wondering about it is very different than completely rejecting it, completely saying they do not exist, and having that kind of, so that is the wrong view. And that wrong view, when you have that wrong view, then you break the both sets of vows, root vows, then when we think of bodhisattva, when we cultivate bodhisattva mind, we cultivate, to liberate all sentient beings, to enlightenment in life after life, by engaging into the Bodhisattva path, life after life, by cultivating creating the three eons on merit, and so it, all this will collapse if there's no past and future life. Then, there's no way that you can create merit of three eons, and helping sentient beings life after life. The intention to help and benefit life after life, all of them. So it basically kind of, goes against all of those, the vows we make, to liberate all sentient beings, until they achieve enlightenment, even it takes many lifetimes. So that is the wrong view, cultivating the wrong view. And then next is the destroying any towns, countries, so destroying any countries, any city, any town, any village, where many sentient beings, many human beings live, so that is the object that is being destroyed. So if you try to destroy and kill the living beings in there, then of course, then it is a different, then it is not this one. This one is destroying not the sentient beings, but the place, the home that they live in, That is destroying the sentient being itself is a different, breaking of different vows, like in second vows. No, in the third vows. So it goes in that, but here it's not the living beings, but the house, the place where they live, such as the country, the city, the town, the villages, and the houses in the villages, And in terms of the motivation is to, destroy them with the afflictive emotions, to destroy them. Sometimes we might destroy by accident, unintentionally. So that will be not breaking these vows, Someone start a fire accidentally, and then the whole, whether it's an individual house or a whole city, whole town, whole village can be burned out, But then that is, you don't have the intention, that the afflictive emotion to kind of destroy that. So therefore, the motivation has to be the afflictive emotions to wanting to destroy the place, in terms of motivations, And in terms of, so therefore, like for example, I haven't in Lama Tsongkhapa commentary, it doesn't say very clearly, there isn't any kind of clarity whether those, like, house those has to be only for inhabitant or human, or maybe what about the animals, so there isn't much clarity. So by mentioning of like country, town, city, village, it seems like more to do with the human beings, you know. So anyway, the motivation has to be afflictive to destroy it. And in terms of the actions, how we destroy it, and then it could be destroyed from by many different way, through fire, bombs, by spreading disease, pollutions, poisonous, black magics, if people use black magic to kind of destroy that. So extra, whatever different way, or even by floodings, someone can destroy by flooding as well, by like that. So whatever form, that basically you destroy the homes for those living beings, and thereby put the people, the sentient beings, the people, into the suffering, put them in the suffering, expose them to the suffering and the pain from many dangers, the danger of the elements, the danger of, other human beings, animals, and so forth, This include destroying any place that is inhabited by others, such as houses. Yeah. Mm. I don't remember where. I might have seen somewhere in one of the teachers where it seems to indicate even the houses or the place where the animal lives as well. In Lama Tsongkhapas here, there is no clarity whether it has to be human beings, houses or places, or whether it will destroy, place where the animals, other sentient beings live. There's no clarity on that. But just from the mentioning, what is mentioning is like the, town, city, town, village. So it seems more like human beings, but I'm not sure clear, not so 100% sure. Of course, for safety, to be more cautious and more safety. Also, places where animals live, even you are not breaking the both vows, still, you create negative karma. Even it might not be breaking the root vows, but it doesn't mean you don't create negative karma, because you are hurting and other sentient beings indirectly, just like the human beings. So that is the 10th one, And 11.1, teaching voidness to those who are untrained or not ready to understand it. So this is, teaching emptiness, voidness or emptiness, teaching voidness and emptiness for those sentient beings, whose mind is not ripened to hear and understand the teaching of the emptiness correctly, who are not trained enough, those who are not ripened enough to understand emptiness correctly, so if you teach them, then again, so object of to teach is that, and the subject to be taught, teach, is the emptiness, so teaching of emptiness to someone who is not ripened their mind, or train their mind to understand correctly, and there is danger of misunderstanding, So So, and not only that, the person who to break these vows it has to be someone, who has a Bodhisattva's vows, someone who had inspired, who have cultivated Bodhisattva mind, whether it's the realization, effortless Bodhisattva, or who have tried to develop the Bodhisattva mind with effort, not the realization, but who is aspiring to become a Bodhisattva, who is aspiring to be on the Bodhisattva path, and who have taken those Bodhisattva vows. So someone who has taken that, but who is not ripened and trained to understand the emptiness directly, because of that, if you teach them the emptiness, they misunderstand and they can develop a lot of fear. And due to a lot of fear and misunderstanding, then they give up being on the path. They give up practicing the Bodhisattva path. They give up their Bodhisattva mind, Bodhisattva vows, So if that happens, then, then you break the vows, So therefore, again, some of those vows like this one, very, I find very interesting, where the Buddha's skillful means and concern is more about whether it is going to be helpful to that person or not. Even the emptiness is the most important subjects. And even that is the key to release from the samsara and to achieve enlightenment. Even though that emptiness is the reality, truth, but when someone's not ready, you shouldn't. Even if it's the truth, even if it's the reality, you should keep quiet. Because normally for us, it's the truth, therefore I have right to say and I should say it. Don't we say that, That is how we feel, this is right, because this is right. And therefore, why should I keep quiet? Why should I keep quiet? Why can't I share it? Why can't I say it? Because it's the truth. Here, the emphasize, and not, this is one of the examples, but there are many, many examples from Buddha's teachings, and the emphasis is whether it's going to be helpful, beneficial for that person or not, by sharing that truth. By sharing that truth, if it's not going to be beneficial, better not to share now. And again, we can learn a lot from all of this, how we, in our everyday life, sometimes we become so, obsessed about truth. And therefore, instead of being concerned whether by sharing that, whether it's going to help or benefit. Same thing, a lot of news sometimes, by sharing, if you are going to make someone overwhelmed with the suffering and pain, better not to share it. But if someone can deal without being overwhelmed by this kind of negative, this kind of painful news, and then it is okay, And so those are all these things, sometimes we feel like we have to share everything. We have to, but for some time, if I share too many of my own struggles or someone's family in my struggles, family, and then they are hearing many other struggles in their own family, they are struggling with their own life, They are hearing so many struggle around them, their family, their friends. They are already being overwhelmed. And then you hear so many of that, then sometimes people just become depressed. They can't handle it. And then they become very depressed. And so all of that, is all we have to really think, how much we can share, and how much we shouldn't share, what is going to be more beneficial to share, not share, all of that, I think these are really, really good advice, the main thing is having concern for others, whether that person's by sharing, whether it's going to be helpful, beneficial or not, Sometimes by too much sharing, we can overburden someone, overwhelm someone, make them kind of, depressed, because they already are kind of being already overwhelmed and overpowered, burdened by many other things. So this is another, what we can learn. That's what I'm trying to say, because normally you will think, because it's such an important topic, because it's a must, because it is the truth. Therefore, why shouldn't I share it? Because by doing that, because they are not ready, therefore now they're lost. Even the Bodhisattva mind, even the aspiration for the Bodhisattva, aspiration to the path, now they lose that. So before they had something, now they even lost that something they had before. Some virtuous mind, Also, what this shows is also how difficult and not easy is to understand the emptiness. There's no vows about not sharing, about teaching on loving kindness, compassion, Bodhisattva mind. Because it might be difficult to practice, but there isn't many chances of misunderstanding it. Of course, putting them into practice is not easy, difficult. But in terms of understanding, there's a very less danger of misunderstanding it. But when it becomes emptiness, if you don't have enough merit, if you have not trained enough, if your mind is not ripened, then there's huge danger of misunderstanding. And so they have that also shows realization or understanding of, or correct understanding of emptiness is not so easy. It requires a lot of merit. It requires a lot of merit. It requires a lot of hearing, hearing, studying again and again and again. You can't understand by one time, listening one time, hearing one time, listening, hearing 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, So since it's more difficult, therefore it means we need to create more merit to have correct understanding. We need to continue to study more so we can have more and more imprint. And slowly, certain things started to make more sense than before. And slowly, we are able to get the meaning of that more than before. So here it says, this could be harmful due to causing fear and thereby causing one to abandon Bodhisattva mind, thus failing to the level of Hinayana, well, falling to the level of Hinayana is not too bad. There is a danger even giving up the path completely, because feeling there's nothing, falling to nihilism, and therefore, um, and so therefore, um, not practicing any path, not practicing any path, you know. So, and then 12, turning someone away from the working to attain enlightenment and encouraging him or her to work merely for his own liberation. Again, again, someone, for one individual who is on the Bodhisattva path, either someone who have already generated Bodhicitta mind, or either someone who is aspiring to cultivate Bodhicitta mind, aspiring to be on the path, someone who wants to be on the path to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings, who inspired to be benefit to others out of loving kindness, compassion, and for that person's, discouraging them to be on this path, and instead encouraging them to work for their own individual liberations, individual liberation. So the persons where you turn away has to be someone who is on the Bodhisattva path, whether they have cultivated Bodhicitta mind or at least they have aspirations to be on the Bodhisattva path, who is working on that, and trying to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Someone who is not in on that path, and then if you encourage them to work for their own individual liberation, then of course, then again, you are not breaking the root vows here, but it has to be someone who is already on that path, And so the example how we might be discouraging someone from being on this path, both sort of a path, and encouraging them to be on individual liberation path can be, for example, if someone is training in bodhicitta, or someone who has already cultivated bodhicitta and who is being on the bodhisattva path, someone who is, again, I said, trying to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, who is thinking of benefiting all others, who is out of compassion, loving kindness, who is always thinking of being helpful and benefit to others. Therefore, they engage in that path, someone who is on that. Saying to that person, if you practice this, you will never attain enlightenment, So then, enlightenment is too big goal, Enlightenment is too ambitious, too high ambitious, saying, is something that, is something not easy, is something is difficult for you, is not something, might not be possible for you, Or, it will take too long, it will take 3 years, you have to create so much merit, you have to, sacrifice yourself, your own life while you are on both sides of a path, so, and so you can't be, so therefore, kind of discouraging them, from all similar like this kind of, talk, discussions, speech, So, on the other hand, if you say, if you practice this, would it not be better to train in Hinayana, At least you will free from samsara, and then trying to encourage them to be on the path for individual liberation by saying, oh, if you work for the individual liberation, is possible, is more easier, you can achieve that, You don't have to work for eons and eons. You don't have to take rebirth for eons and eons on the Bodhisattva path, You don't have to come to samsara again and again and again. On the other hand, you might have to come that, You don't have to sacrifice, your life, your bodies and so forth, And so, you can easily, by engaging through the path of three higher training, within the very short period, you could achieve that. Is much more easier, is much more possible, is much more durable. So therefore, why don't you engage in this path? So then, kind of through our, again, talk, discussions, speech, encouraging them on that path. So we break the vows or root vows when we try to discourage them from practicing the Bodhisattva path and encouraging them to be on the individual liberation path. And when they actually give up the Mahayana path, Bodhisattva path, and they actually enter, if they actually enter the individual liberation path, if that happens, then you break the vows. If they don't, even you try to discourage them, even you try to encourage them, but if they don't give up the Mahayana path, then you are not breaking the root vows. To break the root vows, then they have to give up. Just as you discourage, then they become discouraged from the Bodhisattva path. And just as you encourage them to be in individual liberation path, and they get encouraged, and then they decided to be on that path and give up the other path. And when that happens, if that happens, then you break the root vows. But even you say that, even you discourage, encourage, but if they don't give up the Bodhisattva path, and if they don't enter the other path, then still is, in terms of breaking the root vow itself, you don't have these root vows, these particular root vows, breaking of these root vows. To breaking this root, then it has to be that, So again, whether there's some discussions, whether someone has to actually give up the Bodhisattva path and then enter that, or not, So there is some discussion, and then Lama Tsongkhapa says, it has to be someone who give up that path, the Bodhisattva path, in order to have this breaking of these root vows. Okay. So next one is, encouraging others to abandon the Pratimosha vows, So encouraging others to give up their moral discipline, the practice of their moral discipline, and the practice of keeping the Pratimosha precept of the vows, So again, through whatever form of discussions, talk, and speech, So the persons here to be discouraged, to encourage them to abandon the Pratimosha vows, which are individual liberation vows, or a practice of moral discipline, the object of this, the objects of breaking this vow, the object to whom you are talking the person has to be someone who is actually practicing the Pratimosha, who are someone who is practicing the Pratimosha vows and practicing the moral discipline. It has to be someone. And the way, the example, one of the example or the way we can encourage them to give up that vows, the way we encourage them is here, by here. For example, if someone is abiding in his vows, or in practice of moral discipline, saying, what is the use of that? What is the use of engaging in moral discipline? What is the use of keeping those precepts and vows, those Pratimosha vows and precepts? Would it not be better to train in Bodhisattva? Wouldn't it be better to train in Bodhisattva? Wouldn't it be better to enter the Mahayana path? Wouldn't it be better to practice and study and practice the Mahayana teachings? And there, if you do that, if you practice Mahayana path and engage in the practice of Bodhisattva, if you study the Bodhisattva's path, then, whereby your non-virtues of body, speech, and mind will be automatically subside, saying, you don't have to work so hard to restrain and refrain from non-virtuous actions, So it is like saying, you don't have to put so much effort. You don't have to put so much effort. You don't have to try to put so much effort to restrain, non-virtuous action through body, speech, and mind, such as, refrain from 10 non-virtuous actions. You don't have to do that, because if you practice in Bodhisattva, or if you practice Mahayana path, if you try to study in that, those will automatically, just by studying the Mahayana path, just by entering the Mahayana path, just by practicing Bodhisattva, all of this will stop, subside by itself automatically. If someone says to you, wouldn't that sound great? And so then they think, oh, it's right. If they started thinking, oh, it's right, it makes sense, I just need to work in Bodhisattva, and then I don't have to worry about, refraining from non-virtuous, 10 non-virtuous action through body, speech, and mind, because that will automatically be subside by practicing the Bodhisattva, by engaging both sort of practice, by engaging in the Mahayana path, So when someone said, then if the person abandoned, then the person believe, then person believe what you said, then the other person believe what you have said, and then on the basis of that belief, then person abandon his or her Pratimosha vows, he or she, abandon, then give up the give up the Pratimosha vows, or give up the practice of engage in moral discipline, such as refraining 10 non-virtuous actions. And if they abandon, if they give up, then you break these root vows. But even you try to encourage them to give up and abandon the Pratimosha vows and the practice of moral discipline, but if they don't give up, then again you don't have you don't have this breaking of these root vows. But in order to have these root vows, breaking these root vows, then that person has to give up, the Pratimosha vows, the precepts, the moral discipline, So again, that is one of the conditions that is needed, just like the earlier, when you encourage them to enter to the individual liberations and discourage from the Mahayana path, they have to they have to give up Mahayana path and enter that. Similarly here also, they have to give up. If they don't give up, even you said all of that, then again, you don't break these root vows, And so then he says, saying that Pratimosha vows are not necessary for Mahayana practice is wrong. They are the best working basis for the Tantras, So again, saying, the practice of moral discipline, the practice of Pratimoksha are only for those who are on the path to Arhat, those who are path to individual liberations. But those who inspire on Mahayana path, and within the Mahayana path, those who inspire on Tantric path, Vajrayana path, you don't need to practice those, are totally misunderstanding and so therefore, again, if you practice the Vajrayana practice, you can transform the attachment into path. You can transform anger into the path. You can transform, ignorance into the path. Therefore, you don't need to practice, such as the practice of moral discipline or Pratimokshas, vows, which are to kind of, which are to kind of avoid, arising of attachment, anger, and ignorance, which are a method to, kind of refrain from those non-virtues that give rise to those negative emotions. So by saying something like that, and then other person believe that is the case, and because I'm a tantric practitioner, because I am a Mahayana practitioner, therefore these are not important. If someone believe that, then and give up that, then that will be the transgressions. And as it says, in one of the sutras, Vinaya Sutras, Buddha says, if you ask whether enlightenment is possible without the practice of the moral discipline, then Buddha's give one example. He says, oh, it's impossible, it's impossible, it's impossible. And he give an example, someone whose nose is very flat, to see your nose flat, he said you don't need a mirror to see that or to feel that, Similarly, you don't need to give so many reasons and logics like the mirror in order to understand that enlightenment is not possible without the Pratimosha vows and moral discipline, And then there are many other quotations from many other tantric teaching by the Buddha himself, without the foundation of Pratimosha vows, without the foundations of moral discipline, you cannot achieve, any of the accomplishment. There is no accomplishment, common accomplishment, uncommon accomplishment, none of them. An uncommon accomplishment here meaning enlightenment, so you cannot achieve any of those accomplishments. And so therefore, the Pratimosha vows become even more important when you practice the Bodhisattva's path and Tantric path. It becomes even more important. when you practice for individual liberations, you practice those Pratimosha vows and moral discipline, so that because if you engage into those non-virtuous actions and if you don't keep those precepts and the vows, then then because it will you will experience consequences and negative consequences of that in the future, the sufferings, and also it become obstacle to achieve your liberations. So that is the main concerns. But when you are on the Bodhisattva path, the concern is more than that. If you engage in such as non-virtuous, 10 non-virtuous actions, if you don't refrain from them, and if you engage in such as 10 non-virtuous actions, if you don't keep those vows, and if you break those vows, it will hurt and harm other sentient beings. It will hurt and harm other sentient beings. Each of those actions, each of those actions will hurt and harm other sentient beings. And the main focus of the Bodhisattva path is to stop any actions through body, speech, and mind that can be harmful, hurtful for any sentient beings. And since any of those actions do bring hurt and harm to other sentient beings, so there is even more important to refrain from them. Otherwise, you cannot stop from hurting and harming other sentient beings. If you cannot stop such actions, such behavior, refrain from such non-virtuous actions and behaviors. So therefore, the moral discipline, Pratimosha, must be the foundations for the Bodhisattva path, foundation for the Vajrayana practice. So you can't give up. You cannot abandon. If you give up, you abandon that, then you are trying to build a house without good foundations. And without good foundations, then the house can collapse anytime, easily. So in order to build up a strong one, then you need to have that strong foundations. And so the next one is causing others to hold incorrect view that you might hold regarding Hinayana teachings. So again, the object to whom you are, trying to give this incorrect, having this incorrect view, and criticizing, is someone who might be, inspired, or who is on the path, to individual liberation path, whether it's the path of healers or whether it's the path of solitary realizers, someone who is on that path, and then, through your speech, talk, discussions, giving them incorrect view, and thereby turning them away from their path, turning them away from their path, turning away them from their path. And the way that we say, the way we can turn away from their path, for example, is like this here, and when you say that, you are saying from the depth of your heart, because, that is how you think, incorrectly, by saying, such as saying that by practicing the Hinayana, by engaging in the path of, whether it's hearer or solitary realizer path that aim for individual liberations, by entering those paths, you can never give up attachment. You can never give up attachment, anger, ignorance, so forth, and therefore all, and so saying you can never give up, you can never be free from all the delusions. You can never be free from the delusion by engaging at the path. Again, which is incorrect view, because even by following those paths, you can overcome all the delusions. You can overcome all the delusions. You can free from all the delusions. So saying something like that is totally incorrect view. Having that thought is incorrect view, and sharing that with others is sharing incorrect view. Or another way of saying is, by practicing that path, you can never be released from the suffering and the delusions. You can never be released. You can never be free from the sufferings. You can never be free from the delusion. You can never be free from the samsara, by saying that. So again, similarly in the past, then here again they say, if the other person believes you, then it's a transgression. If other person doesn't believe, then again, you are not breaking, but other person believe, by following this path, I can never free from the delusion. I can never free from all the suffering. I can never free from the samsara. And thereby, they believe that. Of course, if they believe that, then of course they will give up the practice, because they do the practice for that purpose. So if they believe that, then you transgress, So they hear Lama Tsongkhapa make a little bit of differentiation between here and earlier. Well, earlier there is the root vows of abandoning the Dharma. There was another root vows that was abandoning the Dharma. I think it's the 8 vows. Yeah, I think it's the 7th one. Or 6th one, sorry. Yeah, so abandoning or despising the holy Dharma, or criticizing, So within that, then it says, whether you are abandoning the Mahayana Dharma, or whether you are abandoning the hearers, abandoning or criticizing the hearer, the teaching or practice of Mahayana Bodhisattvas, or whether teaching or practice of solitary realizers or hearers. If you do that, then that is abandoning the Dharma, if you do any of that. So that here, again, it seems a little bit similar, here in terms of that. And so the Lama Tsongkhapa, the difference is in terms of the early one, on the 6th one, the abandoning of that, criticizing of that is the scriptural Dharma, the teaching itself, the scriptural Dharma. Here is abandoning the Dharma, the realizations. Because when we talk about Dharma, then there is the realizations, the wisdom, and the realization, the actual Dharma, and then the scripture that explain how to do, that is the scriptural dharma, And so early one is criticizing the scriptures dharma, and here is the realizations dharma. So it's a different dharma. And also the way you criticize is slightly different. Early one is said those teachings are not given by the Buddha, saying those are not given by the Buddha. Those are not taught by the Buddha. Here, the way it is criticized is by practicing this path, you will not be able to free from the delusions and samsara and the sufferings. So here is not saying, is not taught by the Buddhas, is not criticizing in that way, saying it's not taught by, but what is saying is that by engaging this path, this particular path, you will never be able to free from the samsara, free from the delusion, free from the suffering. So the way it is criticized is a different. The objects of the Dhatu Dharma is a different. One is scriptural and one. So again, that is why it is slightly too different, So any questions so far? Questions, comments so far? No, Eloise, you have to unmute. I didn't hear.
Sorry, forgot.
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just a comment that this has been so clarifying of these vows. This has been just wonderfully useful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it is helpful because if we don't go in detail, then it seems, if you just read that one, sometimes there isn't specific very details, and that could make huge difference into whether we're breaking the vows or not, and so definitely it does help us to be more precise, more clarity, whether we have really broken or not, and so definitely it's. And again, I think I should thank you for asking to teach that one. Yes, Mary.
Geshe, I agree with Eloise and just wanted to say thank you. It was so good to hear about the sharing the truth and what's most beneficial or what's not beneficial, about not having to share too much. So that was just really profound for me to hear tonight. So thank you.
Yeah. I have heard, some of my friends, when they come first meet the Dharma, some of the teaching really kind of touch their heart. They related with it very strongly. And because before they met the Dharma, they already have certain way of thinking, different from the other people's, But then when they heard the Dharma, then it just feel like, oh, that is why it is, And then they get so excited. Then they want to share it with everyone, And then everyone does not have that excitement. Everyone does not feel same way. And then they get into discussions and conflict with their friends, And so instead of being helpful, then it push out their friend even further from the teachings. Maybe before their mind was a little bit kind of open, but now they talk about, reincarnations, past and future life, because that connected them very strongly. And now they're excited to share about this knowledge about why there is a reincarnation, why reincarnation is possible, why there's many lifetimes. And that is just put off some people's friends. And now they think it's a dogma, So even they were some kind of open before, now it make them close their mind. Now they feel it is just a dogma, it's a kind of brainwashing, whatever, all these different ideas comes, And so, and then they come and they say, their friends they were not excited. And not only excited, they got in a big discussions. And sometimes not a good discussions. And they get disappointed, unhappy, And so again, it's really good to know, and and even in my personal, of course, it's just my personal personality and my personal way of doing things, I don't share much unless someone is interested and ask from their side, If there is an interest from their side, if they ask, I share it. Even with my parent, if they don't ask, even they are Buddhists, if they have questions, if they want to learn a little bit, they want to share, then I share it. But unless that, I don't go and preach them saying you should do that, you shouldn't do this, you should do this way or that way, that is with my parents, my families, that is my friends, that is with my students. Only if they ask, then I kind of share according to what I know, according to my knowledge, my understanding, But other than that, I'm so of course, different teachers, different people has different approach, and this is just my approach. Yeah. So, any others? If there is other questions, comments, we can take one or two.
Geshe-la.
Yeah.
Geshe-la, hi, it's Mary. I just wanted to share that I even keep my practice very quiet. I try not to even let people know that I practice, because there's so much judgment right now, I find. So anyway, just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have an aunt who's in a nursing home who's paralyzed, and I was raised really strict Catholic, and she's given up on Catholic. I cannot believe it, but she doesn't believe God would let this happen to her. But I call her every day. And so every day I'll say, do you want to hear trivia? Or do you want to do trivia today? Or do you want me to sing a song? Sometimes I sing a Polish song. Or would you like to hear a prayer? So I read to her. I don't tell her it's Shanti. I read to her the prayer from Shantideva's dedication prayer. I love that prayer. My mom says when I read to her that prayer, she gets the biggest smile on her face. So she'll say, where's that prayer from? And I say, oh, it's a special prayer I have in one of my prayer books. But I don't say anything about Buddhism to her or my mom because it might disturb them, and especially if she's in the nursing home. But so I don't know if that's acceptable or not, but that's what I do. And I love that prayer. It's my favorite prayer. And it seems to find some comfort in it.
That's wonderful. And that is the thing, she's accepting, is making her happy, smiling. So then definitely, because it's helping her, it's benefiting her. So it's all about whether it's being beneficial or not, whether it's benefiting that person or not. If it's benefiting and being helpful, then we can share it, and it's helpful to share it. But as you said, if it is disturbing their mind, then that is, even it is something you find beneficial yourself, even though it is something that we believe is the right, correct truth. But if it could disturb their mind, instead of being helpful, if it disturb their mind, then I think we should be more cautious and more careful of that. But if it's helping, benefiting, then absolutely it's good. Yeah. So then maybe we can do dedications unless there's questions, because we have only 4 more, and then 4 conditions.
Geshe-la, would you like for me to read the dedication list?
Yeah. Yes, you can read it.
All right, for obstacles, we have Alyssa and Laura. Under illness, Jane Braswell, Michael Malone, Uma, Ralph C., Dorcas, Judy L., Susan P., Kathy N., a young woman with brain cancer, Pimene's mother, Leonard P., Ben Ray Lujan, Roger Montoya, Catherine, Leonard Peltier, Jim Bailey, and Mary Smith. And under death, we have Steve Citrullo, Cranberry the Cat, Michael Kirst, Virgel Gomez, Titnahan, Jason Rowena, Corky Hawk, and Patricia Maroney.
Due to the merits of this virtuous action, may I quickly attain the state of Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel Bodhisattva that is not arising grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Jide kamde pende malu pa kangle chungwe sambe yeshe no karin summe tenzen jato la sowa deso tuje lundu sho. Tuzu changshin jangan jawe ten zinjong bebe kunso toko zu chosun kuwe lemo tutu pa da so buje gwendu shate sho. Laba nu cho shate dowa la jawa kwele la pe kadin che tin che la yang sam xin cho de ri so che la ka tin ten be ke sha so. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.